Last time I did a podcast with somebody, I looked at the word doozy, and it means something outstanding or unique of its kind. And this is another doozy.
I've definitely experienced ageism,
Yeah.
and I've had doctors literally laugh at me for being a pole vaulter. And I got second opinions.
And I know you're not supposed to ask a woman's age. So you cleared your first bar at a at the.
At a national meet. Yeah. It's actually been really good for my mental health to have the pole vault.
I don't know if anyone's ever won in the history of the sport a national championship, like jumping both ways. You might be the only one. That's pretty
Well, that would
cool.
be kind of cool.
I don't think I've ever shared this publicly, but I was in special education when I was
For
in
you.
high school, middle school, for a lot of the depression type stuff.
Well, I like to say that special education levels the playing field. That's the foundation I work from in special education, that every child who is in special education, who qualifies for special education services, is getting what they need to be successful.
I talked with Lynn Larsen. She is a six-time Masters pole vault champion. We talked about Masters pole vaulters, their injuries that can come up, what it's like to compete as a Masters pole vaulter, her working in the special education space for years as a teacher and then as an educator of special educators, special needs educators. She's a professor, and what that means and what that looks like. Check it out. Let me know if you learned something, and I'm excited to have you meet Lynn. Okay, so before I pushed record, we talked about this just a little bit, and I know you're not supposed to ask a woman's age, but in masters pole vaulting, there's like it's almost feels like an honor in certain ways. Like, hey, I'm in this level now. Oh, I'm in this level. I'm in this level. So how did you? How old were you when you started pole vaulting? And we'll start there. I'm sure people have asked you this a lot. And then, like, what was the reasoning for trying this sport out of all the sports out there?
Right. So I'm 57 and I started pole vaulting. My very first pole vaulting lesson. I had just turned 50. And I turned 50 in February. And then that spring, I decided to give pole vaulting a try. And I was a track athlete in high school. So I did sprints, and I did long jump and high jump, but I'm old enough. We didn't have pole vaulting for women. I graduated high school in 1986. So we didn't have pole vaulting for women. The Olympics, I don't even think they had pole vaulting for women at the Olympics until 90 or 94 or something like that. So
Yeah, I think it was
that
2000 with Stacy Dragilo, which is
Okay, well, there you
crazy.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely no pole vaulting. I think I would have tried that in high school, to be honest with you, because I loved the field events and did pretty well at long jump and high jump. And so when I turned 50, I was like, well, am I going to have a midlife crisis or am I going to do something productive and positive? So I had always enjoyed track. I had great memories about it. And I'm not really sure why I didn't try track in college. I went to a D4 school and I definitely could have been on the team. And I think I lacked a lot of confidence in myself back then. And I thought just, well, I'm not good enough. And so that's always kind of a regret that I have, that I didn't give track a try in college. But my daughter Hannah was a competitive gymnast, and then she transitioned to pole vaulting in high school. She heard them over the loudspeaker, hey, if you're a gymnast and you want to try a track sport, come out for pole vault. And we didn't know anything about the pole vault. Nobody in
Yeah.
our family had ever done it. And so she tried it, and she ended up coming in sixth for D4 in her senior year, jumping 9.6, I think was her PR,
Wow.
and had good, pretty good experiences with it. She tried being a track athlete for a year in college, but she was an engineering major, so there just,
Okay.
wasn't enough time to do travel meets and study for all the tests that she had. So um, but yeah, when I started looking into track, when I turned 50, I saw that they had pole vaulting for women. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. And so I contacted her club coach from high school and said, hey, how about giving this old lady a try? And he's like, yeah, I've coached a couple masters athletes before, coming out, give it a try. And at that point if I could go back and start over again, like I would spend about a year getting my body ready for the pole vault because as pole vaulters know, it takes every cell of your being.
Yeah.
And I was fairly fit, right? Like I had done cardio classes, blah, blah, blah. I was not prepared for the pole vault. And so had some injuries and tons of pulled muscles and all kinds of things. But that's kind of how I got started in the pole vault.
So how, like at 50 though, so what was it that was like I want to do track again? Or there had to be like there had to be something, right? Like what was that?
I think I missed a sense of community. So
Okay.
I had, excuse me, I had done lots of cardio classes and things like that. My husband and I never have really, like, we've lived in California since 2000, but we've never found our people here.
Yeah.
We're Midwesterners, and I don't know, where we live in Southern California, we just never found our people. And so
Yeah.
I think I was craving some um, social interaction, but also something that was going to hold me more accountable for staying fit and learning something new. Like, I was excited about learning something new as well. And so, and I was just really impressed with the pole vault community from Hannah's experience.
Okay.
She, the camaraderie, you go to meets and everybody's helping catch your step and coaches are giving other athletes feedback. And I had never really experienced that in any kind of competitive atmosphere before. And I thought that was wonderful. And if I could find some of that for myself, I thought that would be something I'd like to participate in. And for me, that's been, besides the physical aspects of being in probably the best physical shape I've been in a really long time, just the social aspect of, I work with the master's coach now, Marie Mead,
Mhm.
in Manhattan Beach. He's amazing. I
He's the
jumped with
best, yeah.
another, oh, I can't say enough about Coach Mead. And I jump with another master's vaulter. So it's just the three of us most days. Sometimes some kids show up or whatever, but it's just, I'm injured right now and I'm not going to practice. And I missed that. I missed the physical aspect of it, but I also missed the social aspect of it. But when you go to
Yeah.
meets and it's just like masters vaulters and we're all just, like at nationals this summer, um, I did better than anticipated. And I was going through polls like I wasn't expecting to. And Angela Hertzner was there, who's an incredible, just all around athlete. And I'm like, Angela, what do I do? Like, I'm not sure. Do I move up grips? Do I move back? And she was basically, coaching, helping coach me during the meet. And that just happens all the time. And I'm to a point now where I can help newer vaulters because I feel like I actually know something about the pole vault after this amount of time. And
Yeah.
so newer women vaulters come to me and say, hey, what should I be doing? And I can actually feel like I can give them feedback and mentoring.
Yeah. Have you thought about coaching at all? Like at the maybe even a high school level or something like that?
I don't think I know enough for that. Again, that's a self-confidence issue. I could
Yeah.
probably go and help, be like an assistant maybe, and maybe when I retire, that's something I could do. I hadn't even ever thought about that, to be honest with you. But yeah, I could probably by the time I retire, feel like I've gained enough knowledge to be able to catch people's steps and help with grips and pole selection and things like that.
I can honestly assure you that you would be a great coach.
Oh, well,
I
thank
yeah,
you.
no. I get emails all the time with and these aren't bad coaches or anything, but they're just parents who are like, I got thrown into this event because my kid wanted to pole vault, and if there's not a
Right,
coach there, she doesn't get to. And I'm like, and the fact even a you have a lot of knowledge, but if you just know where to tell someone to grip on a pole, like
right.
they're gonna
And
be
how?
yeah, and how yeah,
Yeah, and there were a
right.
couple times where I had to help Hannah at meets, and I had very little knowledge, but her coach wasn't there,
Yeah.
and for whatever the reason, and so I remember getting a coach ribbon at one of her like regional meets or something, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a total misnomer here. I'm just a mom.
I think it's so cool that like Hannah's experience got you. I didn't know that. I thought you,
hmm
it's a, I don't know why I pictured it this way. It's almost like you had some kind of a Rolodex and you just like spun the wheel and it was like pole vault. It was going to be surfing or bungee jumping, but it was
Right.
pole vault.
It
Yeah.
definitely wouldn't be bungee jumping, but no, it's definitely because of Hannah that I'm in pole vault. So we talk about that a lot. And I'm like, hey, a few more years and you can start joining me at Masters meet. She's 28 now. So
Is
I'm
she
like,
thinking about it? Do you think she will?
uh, I don't think so. She's really into rock climbing
Oh
and
yeah.
she does these adventures. She did her first adventure event where it's like rock climbing, rappelling, paddleboarding, running, axe throwing,
Really?
archery. Yeah, there was like 13 events across 6 hours. And
Holy.
yeah, I know it was insane. But it was on her bucket list. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Well, it's on mine now. This sounds so it's like a almost like an adventure decathlon, like an extreme sport
Yeah,
decathlon
yeah, an
almost.
extreme decathlon.
I'm gonna write this down. I'm gonna look at
Yeah,
this.
I'll send you the link
Yeah.
for, and the one she did was like a fundraiser for the YMCA because she's very socially conscious and is always doing those kinds of things. So it was a neat kind of marrying of her desire for adventure and, doing something for a good cause. But yeah, I'll
Yeah.
send you the links so you can check out what she did. It was pretty amazing.
So is your family kind of like that? I mean, you had a pole vault daughter, and then now you're a pole vaulter, and she's doing these crazy things. And I don't even want to say I don't say crazy in a negative way because like I skydive and do that stuff. It's just stuff that makes you feel alive, I guess. But
Yeah.
were you guys always doing things like that as a
No,
family?
not really. Like, Hannah was a competitive gymnast, so that took up a tremendous amount of time for the whole family, to be honest with you. And our son, her twin brother, did gymnastics for a little while. For him, it was very helpful with balance and, some athletic things that he needed to work on. But it definitely wasn't a passion for him like it
Yeah.
was for her. We spent a lot of hours at the gym when the kids were growing up. So no, we didn't do a lot of it. Like we never went camping as a family or anything like that. So that's definitely something. My sister was very athletic when she was younger. She did cross country, she did gymnastics, she did track, she did a whole bunch of things, and that's where I got my passion for track. And I also did
Okay.
basketball and softball and stuff when I was in junior high, and a little basketball. But
Yeah.
so yeah, it's not really like a family thing. And like when she emails and said, "Hey, my girlfriend and I are going camping this weekend in a tent," and I'm like, "Okay." I've never been like when I grew up, we never went camping. My husband's family never went camping, so it's interesting to see her become a very outdoorsy, hiking, biking, mountain biking, um, that sort of thing.
It's pretty cool. I mean, yeah. There's a bunch of things I'm doing that I never thought I would do too. It's like you get this weird thirst or quench, and it's like I don't know
Hmm.
how to get it, so I'm gonna try this thing, and it's like, oh, that did it in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
sorry, I'm going off on tangents a little bit
No,
here.
that's okay.
When you started this pole vault thing, you talked about it a little bit, but did you have expectations of what it was going to be like versus what it actually was? Like I know you mentioned that your body was just like, oh, this is not as easy on it as I thought it was going to be. But were there other things? Let's start with like the technical side of things, maybe. Did it look easier than it was, or was it harder than you thought it was, or was like what was
It was
that like?
it was definitely much harder than I ever anticipated.
Okay.
And I've picked up the javelin in the past couple of years, and of course that's another highly technical. It looks like you run up and you chuck a piece of metal, right? Well, that
Right.
can be further from the truth. It's just as technically difficult, I think, as the pole vault. And um, so I think if I had known how, again, I would have spent a lot more time just preparing my body for the pole vault. And um I learned, like, I had Coach Livio in Corona, who's a great coach, and he was very helpful and patient. And I learned a lot from him and from the other kids who were jumping there and so on. And like I mentioned, I'm very grateful to have a master's environment for where I am now as a pole vaulter, but I had no idea. And well, maybe a little bit of an idea just because of Hannah.
Yeah.
I could see the kinds of things she was working on, and I would sit at practices with her, and I could hear what the coach was saying. And of course, I wasn't if I had known then I was going to be a pole vaulter, I probably would have paid a little closer attention to what the coach was saying and been a little better prepared. But so I knew it's technically difficult. She also learned it pretty quickly because she'd been a gymnast. And so it's similar to the vault in gymnastics, right? You're running at an inanimate object as fast as possible. So, and she's just pretty athletically gifted. She picks up on things very quickly. So yeah, it people don't realize how much technical skill you have to have. And I always tell people too, like, it's super important to be fit, but if you're not mentally fit in the pole vault, then forget the physical fitness. Because I know when I'm having off days, mental health wise, or I'm lacking confidence, then the physical aspects of the pole vault just disappear as well. And so it's actually been really good for my mental health to have the pole vault, because even though I've really struggled and like I'm recovering from another injury right now, and that's not fun. Um, and obviously we go through peaks and valleys with the pole vault where things are going great, 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 and then oh, not so great. But when I go to practice, that's all I can focus on. If I'm worrying about my family or my job or the world or whatever, then I'm not going to do well at practice, because I have to have 100% of my brain cells focused on my mental cues and just focusing on the pole vault. Otherwise, it's not going to go well. So I think there's not enough emphasis on the mental aspect of the pole vault. We all, and it's obviously important to have the physical speed and the strength and, all the technical skills of your pole placement and grip and all that sort of thing. But if you don't have a good mental mindset about it, all of that's not going to make any difference.
So what kind of things do you do to have that mental mindset? Like, I'm sure you're just like every pole vaulter. I've been there too, where you go to practice, and if you're not there, right, like then the vault gets it just doesn't
Right.
work. I don't.
Mhm.
That's probably the nicest way to say it. It just doesn't
Yeah.
work that day,
Right.
and then that makes it even more frustrating because you're already not there. So, are
Mhm.
there things that you do, um, like little mental techniques or anything that help you focus on that day? And what are those?
Absolutely. So, where I jump now, I only have an opportunity to jump once a week. So I want to make sure that my jump day is a good day, because otherwise that's the only chance I have for that week to jump. And so, and where I jump with Murray is about an hour, 20 minutes from my house. And so I get in the car, grab some breakfast, put an audiobook on or music or whatever. And then my whole drive there, I'm thinking about my cues. To me, cues are extremely important. And I learned that lesson over time. I have cues in my head, I have visual cues, and I can talk about what those are. And I've learned different cues over time.
Can
And so
you
I just start kind of rehearsing that on my drives, so that when I get to pole vault, I'm like, I'm 100% pole vault right now,
Yeah.
and just stay focused on that during practice.
I don't want to stop you, but
Yeah,
can you explain like what a queue is to people who might not know? I've gotten this question a bunch, and I was gonna make some
sure.
posts on it, but yeah,
So cues are reminders that help you keep track of the different aspects of the pole vault. So for me, I count my steps. I know not everybody counts their steps, but I count my steps, because it really helps me figure out where I am in my run. And so I count ands, not just my lefts, but I do the ands as well. So and I just had, before my injury, I had just moved to six steps, six lefts. um, but so yeah, I do the and. So I do 6 and 5 and 4 and 3 and 2, and I'm doing that. And then there's a cue for me when I get to two, because I'm a pole pusher. I've had too many shoulder issues to where I can carry the pole anymore. So I push the pole. And so when I get to two, my arm goes up, and that's my cue. That's my planting cue. And so that goes up. And then after that, I have visual cues. So it's not just verbal in my head cues. And I know there's some people who really yell their steps out. I try not to do that, because I find that kind of distracting.
yeah.
So I do that in my head, and then arm up. And then somebody at a meet told me once that he had a visual cue for his bottom arm, because I figured out at some point that I used to close my eyes after takeoff, and we saw it on video finally, and I'm like, no wonder I can't see what I'm doing. I actually close my eyes after I plant the pole. So that actually took a while to unlearn, because it had been like 5 years of jumping with my eyes closed after takeoff. So it took quite a while to unlearn that habit. It's like, oh, I can actually watch my feet. What a concept. Um, So yeah, after I take off, I actually sometimes wear a hot pink lifting glove on my left hand so that I have the visual cue of looking for that bottom arm because my bottom arm has always been super collapsed. And I know
Mm.
you talk about, the bottom arm not being as important as the top
Oh,
arm, and I
yeah.
agree,
It is
but
important
mine
though. Yeah.
mine was terrible. It
Yeah.
was like, like this. So that really helped a lot with keeping that bottom arm a bit more out in front because I would look for that hot pink color. And then I've just started, Murray and I were working on a new cue, and it's really helping to look for my feet,
Okay.
which seems like super basic, right? Like every vaulter should be looking for their feet, but I never was. And it's really helped me stay closer to the pole.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, and different cues work for different people. So maybe somebody doesn't need a visual cue for their bottom arm or whatever. Some people like to look for their mid.
Yeah.
I don't focus on my mid. So it's just what works for you.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that because if you nailed it. Cues work different for different people. If you tell some people to look at their feet, they can't get inverted at all. And so
Right.
for you, it works that way. And this is
Mhm.
where especially online, it gets hard. It's what I do. If you're like, try this, and then all of a sudden you get people, this doesn't work. Was like, and I've learned over time that I've just learned this doesn't work for you, but you might not be there yet. So yeah, the cue thing is interesting. I had one coach tell me, my coach, she focused on all five senses, and she put a cue into each one based on what kind of
Oh yeah.
athlete you were.
Hmm.
And some people she called them feelers. Some people are feelers, some people are seers, and some
Hmm.
people like to hear things, and some people have this like internal rhythm, And so if she could pinpoint what type of athlete that was, that kind of helped her go into this bag of cues for that athlete, which was I
Hmm.
always thought was pretty cool.
Well, and
Yeah,
I learned there was an unintentional cue that I found helps as well. I was watching. I have some of my best meets at the pole vault summit. Um, just every
there's
year, I'm not
people.
sure. It's
Yeah,
just an
it's the
amazing
energy. Yeah,
environment, and yeah, it's the energy and just that point in my training cycle, I guess. But I've always had really good meets there, some of my best meets. And what I found out is that at those meets, um, Murray's there, which is always, I always obviously do better when I have a coach there who can, know me and help me, which I often don't have at my master's meets just because they're all over. But when I'm starting to invert, I hear Murray in the background go up or something like that. Like he just yells at me to, and subconsciously I've seen it give me like that little extra boost. And so I started looking back at videos of my meets where he was there, and that's what he was doing. Like he was encouraging, like really yelling out to give me that extra boost over the bar. And I tried that at the Oregon Senior Games. There was a really cool coach and his athletes I was like the only vaulter. So it was this coach and two of his athletes, and they were like the nicest people in the world. And I was struggling a little bit, and I said, my coach does this thing, and they're like, "Oh, we can totally do that." And I ended up getting
that's
over the
awesome.
bar. So that's another cue I have to add to my toolkit if I'm struggling to have somebody yell at me as I'm going
Yeah,
over the bar.
absolutely. I haven't heard that one before. I'll have to add it to my
Yeah,
toolkit too.
yeah, that's a new one.
So you're a five, is that correct? Five times Masters champion or
Six,
six now?
actually.
Six. I
Six
forgot
now,
to add
yeah.
this year. That's wild. And okay, so to me, this is one of the most interesting things that have happened. And we've been talking about this the last couple of years, but you hurt your right shoulder and you switched to be a left-handed pole vaulter for a while. And
Yeah.
even though, and and I'm not a doctor, and I felt weird even telling you this. I just shared my experience, but I was like, you had a doctor telling you not to pole vault anymore.
Mhm.
And but from what it sounded like, even talking here, you needed this tribe and this community, and there was more positives than a hurt shoulder. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it is. And I've had a couple of doctors tell me
Yeah.
that I should quit the pole vault, and I got second opinions.
Yeah.
So it's like, these are all injuries. I've had two rotator cuff mild tears. I've had a labral tear.
Are these
I've
before
had
pole vault though? Or some of them, or are they all due to pole vault?
all they're all due to pole vault.
Okay, I was just checking. I didn't know.
Yeah. I developed frozen shoulder a couple months after, but I'm also, menopausal. And so a lot of these things are also related to what happens to the body, the woman's body when you go through menopause, which I'm learning more about over time. The frozen shoulder was most likely just due to menopause, not due to pole vault. But so yeah, I was jumping so well. About a year and a half ago, I had cleared 8.6, which was my PR, and I was like on the biggest pole. I was on a 12-foot pole, and I just was doing extremely well. I felt super strong in the pole vault and very confident. And then I started getting this nagging shoulder thing, and I knew what it was because I had a rotator cuff issue before. So yeah, I was forced to take some time off, and it was taking longer to heal. And so I talked with Murray and I said, how about we just switch? And I just switched takeoff, and so it's the other shoulder that's getting the brunt rather than the one that's not feeling good. And he's like, yeah, sure. Kudos to him too, didn't
Yeah.
blink an eye, just said, yeah, let's give that a try. And the first practice, I cleared 6 feet, switching.
That's wild. That's so
So
cool.
so I did that for about 6 months, and then the shoulder felt fine, and so I switched back. But
Did you
the opportunity is always there. If I have issues again, I'm a switch hitter, I guess, so I can
Yeah,
go
that's
back and
that's
forth.
so insane. Did you compete at a Masters Championship left-handed then at
I
all?
did, yeah, I
And
won a national championship.
so you've won, I don't know if anyone's ever won in the history of the sport a national championship with both
With
like
both.
jumping both ways. That's you might be the only one. That's pretty
Well, that would
cool.
be kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, Mondo can't do that. Maybe he could. We'll throw it
I'll
out to
have to
him.
have a chat with Mondo about,
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty
Yeah,
wild.
indoor nationals this past year, I won jumping the
So
opposite arm.
how high did you jump lefty and then how high have you jumped? You said 8.6 righty, right?
I
Correct?
think I'd have to go back and look through my journal because I journal. I learned that from you. So we can talk about journaling because that's been
Yeah.
very important to me. I'm thinking 7.6.
That's
And I probably
that's
could have gone higher, but I also felt like I wanted to get back to where I was before, and I wasn't sure that I could keep progressing left-handed. So we've switched back, and then I've had some, I've got this ankle issue right now, which is a little frustrating, but we'll get back to it. My goal before I got injured this latest time, my goal was to get back to 8.6 at Reno. Now I don't know if that's going to be reasonable or not. I had been jumping, my highest was 7.9 returning to righty.
wow.
So I think 8 feet's probably reasonable given the time frame I have right now for recuperating.
Yeah, that's so crazy. The switching is just insane to me. And like when I was writing these questions, like I had this I don't know if you've ever read it, but I had an original Team Hoot philosophy that was kind of incorporated just being yourself and doing the scary things, even
Hmm.
because part of you wants to do it, but something's stopping you. So, but trust that first feeling. And there was like
Hmm.
this line in there that made me think of you, which was like, we may be safe in the conventional, but that's not how we're meant to live. And that's what I thought of when you were like, that first time you reached out and it's like, have you ever had any shoulder issues? And then I had the exact
Hmm.
same thing. I had a doctor tell me I'd never pole vault again. And
Yeah.
um, I got a second opinion. They said the same thing. It was either the third or fourth opinion. And then I went to a Minnesota twin surgeon, guy who works on shoulders. And
Okay. Yeah.
he was the guy who was like, oh yeah, you won't be pole vaulting a PR this year, but you'll be
Right.
pole vaulting high. Uh, you'll be pole vaulting in 6 months, but next year you'll probably be jumping really high. And I was like, are you serious? And he had that like Major League Baseball kind of like, I'm
Right.
gonna trust this guy.
Well, yeah, I
He's
mean,
got
they deal with
shoulders.
rotator cuff issues and pretty serious shoulder stuff all the time with pitchers and so on. So,
Yeah, it just wasn't your, I don't want to call him a family surgeon. The family surgeon who works on like ladies who fell down the stairs or something like that. Like,
yeah.
we'll fix her shoulder, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, I feel like I'm in a bit of a different category than that lady when it comes to this stuff. But
Well, and
yes,
that's been hard too because, I go to doctors and I've definitely experienced ageism,
yeah,
and I've had doctors literally laugh at me for being a pole vaulter at my age.
That's so
And it's
crazy.
like there's women out there jumping 10 feet. Like the world record for my age is 10 feet. That's
Yeah.
crazy. And so there's women out there doing that. There's not a lot of us, but there are women out there doing that. And to look at me and say, oh, you're old, you have this injury, you can no longer, do the sport that you love rather than, and the same thing with physical therapy, that I've had to seek out sports physical therapy
Yeah.
because regular physical therapists, they look at somebody my age and they're like, can you lift the groceries out of your car? Okay, fine. We're going to exit you from physical therapy. It's like, no, that I'm not looking for everyday life skills here. I want to get back to myself as an athlete.
Yeah.
And so this last round of physical therapy, I finally found a physical therapist who works with athletes. I just happened to find him at a regular old physical therapy place. And I said, Austin, I want to get back to being an athlete. And he's like, okay, let's do that. But
Awesome.
that was the first time in all the years I've been getting physical therapy that I actually found somebody who respected me at my age as an athlete, which is ridiculous.
I didn't even know that like I knew it existed, but it just it sounds so insane to me. So my background's like biomechanics and exercise physiology, and I got my education or my undergrad in education, so like a lot of this
Mm-hmm.
stuff, but they were always talking about the obesity epidemic and how to keep people fit. And if the standard is to lift your groceries out of your car, that's insane. Like if why not throw some fuel on the fire of somebody who wants to do more like that?
Exactly. If I want to
Yeah.
be an athlete and I want to get back to who I was as an athlete, then, you should walk along with me on that journey,
Yeah.
not shut it down.
I wonder what they would have said to, you've probably heard stories like Grandpa Bell. He was like 90 years old still
Yeah.
pole vaulting. Like I wonder, yeah, I don't know. That whole
Yeah. There was
world,
a 78-year-old woman vaulting at the meet I was at recently. And, there's Flo Milers out there. She's vaulting at 90
she's the
plus,
best. Yeah.
and, and there's regularly women and, very very old who are out there pole vaulting, like they're jumping 3 to 3 feet, but they're still running down the runway with a pole in their hands and getting over a bar. So
Yeah.
um, the ageism thing has just been very, when I hear it, I'm just like, okay, I'm not dealing with you anymore. I'm
Yeah,
moving
that's
on to somebody else
it's
because
a
if you don't
quick
respect me, who I am, yeah, I'm out of here.
yeah. I wish I would have known that earlier in life that you don't have to, I don't know. Maybe you felt this too, but it's like when you were a kid, it was like doctors, you listen no matter what, they have this experience,
Hmm.
or therapists or whoever else. And
Right.
it's, I don't know. I still get a little messy in that sometimes where you're like, am I just being difficult right now? Because they do have information I don't have. They went to school for a long time, but there's like this feeling you get when they don't feel like they see you.
You trust your gut. You really need
Yeah,
to trust your gut. When you're sitting there feeling uncomfortable, then that's not the right venue for, the information you're seeking.
that's probably the best way to say that. And for coaches too, I would imagine because I get a lot of
Yeah,
those. Like if a
absolutely.
coach doesn't fit, find a
Hmm.
find a coach that does. Um, oh man. Hey, I should have asked this before. I screwed up, but like can how much time do I have? Do you have to be
I'm
somewhere?
good. No,
Okay.
you're saving me from housework at this point.
You're saving me from housework too. So this is perfect.
Talk
Um,
as long as you want.
yeah. So I'm gonna stay on pole vault just for a little bit longer, and then
Mhm.
if you're comfortable with it, I'd like to talk about like what you do outside of pole vault,
Yep.
and maybe a little bit as a parent since I'm kind of wrestling with that constantly too.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but for pole vaulting, what do you feel like the sport like gives you most? And I'm trying not to add more onto that question. Just
Yeah.
kind of let it sit there. Like what is it that keeps drawing you to it and keeping you in it? And what do you think that other people could get from that too?
I think, like I mentioned before, it's one of the few things I've ever experienced in my life where it takes absolutely every single part of me. It takes every single muscle. Like there's not a muscle in your body that you don't use for the pole vault. It's just absolutely everything. It's your core. It's everything. So everything has to be physically in shape. And so that's motivation. Um, It's a little hard to be motivated to work out right now because I'm not jumping, but I'm doing the best I can. And I've developed my own workout plan, and I'm actually going to start working with my physical therapist. He's also a personal trainer on developing a plan, and that's been just on a slight tangent. Like that's been super difficult. I've been trying for years to find the right fit for me for a trainer
Yeah.
to develop. I just want somebody to develop a plan that I can follow for the most part. But people don't understand pole vault. They don't understand the demands I have on my time outside of physical. Like there's my job's very demanding. And so there's just some days I just can't work out. Like I was planning to work out yesterday and I just didn't end up having the time. And by the time I did have the time, I was so exhausted, like it wouldn't have been worthwhile. Um, so so I'm gonna try get another plan, but like I swim twice a week. I do core and like resistance bands and light weights 2 days a week. I take a day off and then I normally have a jump day. So that's kind of a routine that's ended up working for me. Could I be stronger? You know, there's some elite masters athletes out there who are scarily in shape. Like zero body fat and I'm just not interested in that. Like that's and I don't have time to train that much either
Yeah.
right now. And even if I did, I wouldn't, that's just not who I am or what I want to look like or anything. And kudos to them. They're breaking world records and doing incredible things. So there's different levels of masters athletes, just like there are regular athletes. You know, you go to meets and there's certain folks who are really trying really hard to break world records and training amazingly hard to be able to do that. And I have the utmost respect for them. I'm I'm more of a somewhat casual, not really. Obviously, I want to win and I want to do well and I work hard at it, but there's just a different level of commitment, I guess.
Well, there's some people chasing the world records, right? And that's a whole different thing. And then there's
Mhm.
it reminds me of high school too. Then there's some kids who just want to come and hang out with their friends and they don't really care even that
Yeah,
they're pole vaulting. They could be at a coffee shop. It doesn't matter. But their friends are pole vaulting,
right.
so they're at a pole vault place.
Yeah.
So like for you, is it primarily, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is it that I have this fitness thing that you've talked about that it helps you with. It helps your mind stay focused, so it helps with the physical side of things, the mental health side of things, and then I think the third thing was you were struggling to find a tribe in California, and these are your people, right? You found like your
Yeah.
people.
I mean, for me, the pole vault satisfies so many different things. It's motivating physically to be physically fit and to have to do all these things to be physically fit enough to do well in the pole vault and not get injured.
Yeah,
And then the mental health aspect of it where I have time each week where I can just focus on something, and it deserves all of my attention. It has to have all of my attention and I can just kind of tune out for a couple of hours, and that's really important. And then yeah, the community aspect, like I go to meets and I'm hanging out with pole vault people and now I'm hanging out with javelin people as well. Like I'm getting to know the women javelin throwers and they're all super friendly and nice too. Like that's it's a similar community. They're giving us feedback and we're helping each other, we're cheering each other on. So it's been nice to see that it's not just the pole vault, like there's other track events as well where people are there willing to help each other and we just all want everybody to do their best. So I think I hope everyone who participates in pole vault has an opportunity to have that kind of environment where it is a friendship group and beneficial and helpful, so that they enjoy the pole vault and enjoy the experience.
yeah. So before we chatted too, you were talking about how you wanted just more people to know about that this is even out there, right?
Mhm,
So as somebody who might be listening to this, I mean, my audience is pole vaulters, right?
mhm.
So it might not get outside of our little bubble that we're already in, but it might. What would you tell them to do if they wanted to just try this crazy sport or have a similar experience or get out of it the same things that you're getting out of it?
So I think just track in general, there's a lot of masters track clubs across the United States. So you'd want to start off with USATF Masters. There's, pretty good information on there. Start seeing what meets are available, because if you go to a meet, then you meet people who are involved in track in that area and so on and get to know that community. I think that the best thing in terms of pole vault, because obviously it's difficult to get started in pole vault if you don't have a club nearby. And
Yeah.
so I always use your club list, and that's on your Team Hoot website. And so when I travel, I look for a club that's in the area, and I've been able to work out in Michigan and Texas, for example. I found clubs and they're fantastic.
Yeah.
Landon Athletics in Southern Michigan. I've been there a couple of times now. I go to Michigan a couple every other year for different things, and he's amazing. And he has this beautiful indoor facility, and he's just a super nice guy. And I just show up. I call him in advance. I say, "Hey, I'm going to be here." He's like, "Yeah, come on, come out and do a practice session." And um, same thing with Texas. There's a number of clubs there, and I've jumped there, and the same thing. They just come on out, let's have fun, and we want you to come get a jump session in. So I think that's a testament to the pole vault community. And
Yeah.
so you need to look on that list, see what clubs are in your area, see what's nearby, and just contact the person running the club and see if you can come out and do a jump session and give it a try.
Yeah. Yeah, I always push people to a club first. That one, they have the
Mhm.
poles, they have the facility, and then they have a knowledgeable
Exactly.
coach who's not gonna get you hurt, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it's important to get it, if you have a club nearby, to start with that.
yeah. Um, do you I don't know. The pole vault community, I keep trying to put it into words always, and it's always hard, but it it does feel like to me, and maybe it does to you too. It's like you're at a family get together where you don't,
Hmm.
it's so big that it's small, but it's like you're at a Thanksgiving dinner and everybody shows up,
Yeah.
but there's a bunch of people you don't know, but you know you're all related somehow, and
Right,
so you
right.
hug them and accept them anyways, and
Yeah.
that's always kind of what it feels like. And I've slept on a lot of couches of people I didn't know, but you felt like you know them,
Hmm.
traveling the pole vault space. And it what's really cool is I for a long time I almost thought that was just an elite pole vault experience, and
Hmm.
then you kind of learn that the masters vaulters and the high school kids and everyone has that same experience. You just show up to a meet and you're like, oh, you run with a stick and jump over another stick. All right,
Yeah.
we're cool.
Hey, fist
Let's rock
bump.
and roll. Yeah, which is
Yeah.
the coolest tribe I think in that you found and I found too. And to me, that's what's the most special about it. Like the technique stuff's cool, all the other stuff's cool, but it's like I don't know. I can never put my finger on exactly what it is, but it just feels like you can be yourself in this sport,
Oh,
which is the
absolutely. And
best.
and I have pole vaulting friends all over the country now. I've met them at meets. Most of the masters meets are all over the place. And so you get creative with flying with poles, and
Yeah.
that sort of, putting poles on different rental vehicles, trying to sort you just
Yeah.
flew across the country, and now you got to figure out how to get your poles on the rental car. Um,
Without letting the rental company see you with the poles, probably.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just an amazing community, and now those people are my friends. Like, we've connected on social media, and Jennifer just had another grandbaby. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. We get to share in each other's lives, and then we connect up in person and go out to dinner at meets and things like that. And so it's nice to have that. It's important to me to have that community.
Yeah. I'll just ask you two more questions on this side. Do you think so you're a professor and I would imagine pretty logical and analytical and I'm wired that way too. Do you think pole vault attracts those types of people or have you seen just a smorgasbord of everything?
I think there's a lot of technical experts in pole vault. You see everybody and the different ways that they warm up and count their steps and all those kinds of things. And so, but there's also it's just everybody,
Yeah.
and anybody who wants to run with a stick to jump over a stick,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'm a very detail oriented person. I'm also a big picture thinker, creative thinker, and I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
So I don't think you have to be one certain kind of person. You just have to have the willingness to work hard and be physically fit and focus mentally on what you're doing. And I think, again, we keep talking about it, but it's like that 100% buy-in.
Yeah.
Um, if you don't have that, it's not going to work. And so and figuring out what that looks like for you, like we talked about with different cues and
Yeah.
things like that. And oh, and we were going to talk about journaling.
Oh yeah.
So for me, especially with menopause brain fog, it's been super important to write things down after every practice. So for me, journaling, um, I'm like not a meditative journaling kind of person, but for me, I have a journal where I keep track of the date, whether it was pole vault or javelin, and then where my steps were, what pole I was using, what the weather was like, because that can greatly impact, if I looked at it and it's like, oh, why was I starting from 49 instead of 52? Well, that's because there was a headwind
Yeah.
and, and it was cold and so on. So it's really important for me to note the weather. And then, if we did bungee work, bar work, any cues that we talked about. And I go back and review my journal regularly. And especially when I'm coming back from injury and I haven't jumped for a few weeks, I definitely go back and see where I was and realize I'm not going to be right back to that.
Yeah.
I have to be patient and build back up again. But and it's just always good to see the progression over time. Like I did a graph of my of my jumps, the heights,
Yeah.
because I was feeling pretty discouraged. And there was actually like a serious progression upward
Yeah.
from where I started. And it was really encouraging to see that and say, yeah, I have made pretty good growth over time.
Yeah. That was actually the most helpful for me too, because I don't know about you, but I wrestle with like negative self-talk a lot.
Oh,
And yeah,
yeah.
I'm sure we're the same page. So that's
Broken
always
record.
almost, yeah, that's almost like the first battle is like, okay, how do I, calm that down? And meditation's helped a lot for me with that, but that's a different conversation. But um what I saw was over time in my journal, it got nicer as I was working on negative or reducing
Right.
negative self-talk. And so there was more information about the data that happened in my jump instead of like, you're a piece of shit. You shouldn't even be pole
Yeah.
vaulting. How are you holding on that pole? Oh, you're on a smaller pole than you were 2 weeks ago. What's going, like
Hmm.
all that garbage.
I have little unhappy faces
That's a
occasionally in my
nicer way of
journal.
doing it.
Yeah,
Mine's
yeah,
mine's just the worst words you could ever imagine
Oh
that even a
no.
sailor would blush probably.
Oh
Um,
dear.
yeah, but it was cool to see that progression too, as like,
Hmm.
okay, the the vault's getting better, and probably because the mental state of my practices have been getting better too, because I've been,
The internal conversations
yeah,
are
and we talked about this right at the beginning, is like, and I always joke that pole vault's 80% mental and the rest is in your head, but it really feels like it starts there. You
hmm
can't force a good practice because you feel good. It just never,
right.
it never seems to work that way. It's almost like, okay,
It doesn't.
what's
When
my
when you
thought
go
process?
in like I'm gonna have a good practice today, then it tends to suck. And
Yeah.
and so you just have to go in and how I'm feeling, how the weather,
Yeah.
whatever else is going on. And you just have to do the best you can given the circumstances. And
Yeah.
just enjoy having a jump day. Like I don't have jump days right now. So I've had various injuries over time where I've had to take time off. And so I really value the days that I can go and jump and I appreciate them.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Jason Kolwick told me that once. I don't know if you know who that is. He was an NCAA champion. You might have seen a video of him. He takes off like this with 2 feet
Uh-huh.
behind him, and then he swings 2 feet, and he jumped like 18.8 doing that.
Wow.
It's
That's pretty
scary. Um,
cool.
I used to compete against him, but when he retired, he came back to Reno one year just for fun, and he goes, I never realized it, but as I get older, every jump is a gift.
Hmm.
And he's and I that stuck with me because I was like, yeah,
Yep.
it all kind of ends sometimes. Just like every cool thing in life, everyone graduates high school and they're like, oh, we'll still be friends, but that
Hmm.
phase really it doesn't really stay that way. Like
Yeah.
that it's a closed door. And pole vaulting in your athletic career is kind of the same way. And being a parent, your kids move out, and
Hmm.
that's probably the same type of thing. And then yeah, it's like if you can sit in that everything is a gift. It does help even practices like
It
even if they're
does.
like hey, it's raining today, but this is a gift. I get to pole vault one day. I won't even get to pole vault
Exactly.
in the rain.
Well, and my husband's like, because I get discouraged, when I get injuries, and masters athletes have a lot of injuries like that.
Yeah.
It's just we're doing things that most people aren't doing at
Yeah.
our age, and so you go to meets and you're like, yeah, I got this wrapped up, I pulled this muscle, I'm not jumping right now because I strained my hamstring or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just something I have to come to grips with is that there's just going to be injuries that happen. Like this ankle thing, I landed short in the pit and I landed wrong on my foot. Like I've been really trying hard to land on my butt more and because I tend to land on my feet. And here I was
Yeah.
trying to land on my butt and I couldn't because I landed short in the
Yeah.
pit. So it's just a matter of okay, those things are going to happen. And my husband's always like, you're in this for the long haul. Like we're committed, and he's like my biggest fan.
Yeah. That's so
And has
cool.
been so encouraging, and it's a pretty crazy sport
Yeah.
for somebody to take up at my age, and I travel for meets and things like that, and he's just an amazing support system, and he just keeps reminding me you're in this for the long haul, like you've been doing this since you were 50. And so just be patient, which I'm not. Like a lot of things, but I'm not patient.
Yeah.
So I want to get things done. I want to,
Yeah.
I want to get back to it. And so yeah, it's just, and when I'm not jumping, I miss all the things that I love about
Yeah.
pole vault. So
Do you ever go to practice even if you can't jump just to hang out or anything like that?
no,
No.
no,
I was
that,
just
that
curious.
hurts too much.
It hurts. Yeah.
And I would
I was just
probably do
wondering.
something I shouldn't. So
Yeah.
I don't go.
It's probably wise. I was just
Yeah,
wondering
I know
because
myself way too well.
yeah.
I'd start doing drills or something and I set myself back.
Yeah.
Like this current injury, like I thought I was doing well. I felt pretty good. And so I signed up for the Vegas Senior Games and I went, and that was just like a huge mistake. Like I don't know what I was thinking. And so I've set myself back a couple of weeks because I kind of re-injured it. And um but that's just the eagerness to,
I
get back. And
I
even
get it.
57-year-old women can make poor life choices.
Yeah, we'll call them learning experiences, right?
Learn, yeah, yeah.
I did the same thing. I sprained my ankle before a US championships, and I just PR'd a few weeks before I sprained it, and I was like, I'm gonna go to US championships anyways, and then
Hmm.
ended up no hiding at the meet, and then I got to watch the everyone else jump really
Yeah,
well, and that was a time, where you're an elite pole vaulter and you don't have any money anyways, and you're like, I just spent
right.
$3,000 to travel to the other side of the country. What was I thinking? This was stupid.
Yeah, I mean,
Learning
I
experience, I guess.
traveled to Vegas and I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah,
So
I had the same thing.
hopefully I'll learn from this and not do that again, but we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like I just need to put this in here, but like Ashton Eaton once told me it's better to be 80% healthy than 100% and hurt, and that
Yeah.
really stuck with me too. Is
Hmm.
it gave me permission to chill out a little bit,
Yeah.
where you felt like I have to go. I have to go. I have to keep going. You're like, okay. Because I was always hurt because I was overtraining all the time. I had a similar experience where something was always bugging me, but it was like, was
Hmm.
not bugging me enough to slow me down too much. I just need to push a little harder, which again is a
Yeah.
problem that you can
Counterintuitive,
run
but
into.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite moment in the sport? Like if, as I asked that, is one just pops right into your head, like that's a pretty magical moment that came together.
Um, there's a couple actually. Because the sport has given me more than a few things that I'll never forget. So my very first pole vault meet was the National Senior Games back in 2019, and it wasn't supposed to be my very first pole vault meet. But my qualifying meet had been canceled because of brush fires. The air quality was too bad, and they weren't going to put a bunch of senior athletes out in this horrible. So they just advanced everybody from my qualifying meet to the national games. And so here I am. I had brand new pole vaulter. I look back at that meet and I had no idea what I was doing. Like I had no idea how to adjust my run, my grip. I didn't have a coach there. And I ended up winning the gold medal.
That's crazy.
And my main competition, um well, I'm just going to try to discredit my accomplishment, so I'm not going to go there. But anyway, I won the gold medal. At that meet I was the best jumper in my age group for the day,
Yeah.
and my goal was to clear bar and there were three women in my age group at the meet that year. And so my goal had been just to clear a bar. 'Cause if I cleared a bar, I got a medal. And I'll never forget. It makes me a little emotional just thinking about it. But the first bar I cleared, I just sat in the pit and I thought I was just going to burst out crying because it had been a real complicated journey to get there because of my qualifying meet. I had sprained my ankle
Yeah.
and stuff. And so just to have all that hard work pay off to clearing my first bar in a meet, I'll never, and then to end up winning the gold medal was, pretty crazy.
Wait, so you cleared your first bar at a national at the
At a national meet. Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty
that
crazy.
is wild. You
Yeah.
might be the first person to do that too. I don't know. It's all these first checks.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
So, and
Wow.
then other memorable things are, like I treasure PRs, which I'm sure
Yeah.
most vaulters do, but, in my first national championship, that was a huge deal for me. I had worked so hard to get to that, and it was a strong competition. Like I had some really decent, really good competition. There's one woman in my age group who we just kind of keep, challenging each other, and I came out on top that day, and getting that gold medal was very emotional for me because I had worked so hard to achieve that, and it was my first national championship. And then the others were at the pole vault summit. It's just such an amazing environment. My first pole vault summit, I triple PR'd, and I'll never forget that. And then just each time I go to a pole vault summit, I tend to PR, and so to do that in that environment is
Yeah.
just something super special. So, but lots of moments along the way, and just the people that you meet and them celebrating your accomplishments with you, and me celebrating their accomplishments, and it's just given a lot to me.
Feels like a lot of this comes back to the tribe piece too, right? Like
Hmm.
but also, I mean, you've said it so perfectly. It's like the internal kind of work that you're putting into this, and
Hmm.
then like the tribe to help support that internal work, which is just this kind of beautiful growth. And you can see it
Right.
on your face. It's just this sport is,
Gives me a lot of joy.
yeah, it lights you up. It's pretty
Hmm.
neat. Um, okay. So outside of pole vault, I mean, I tried to look up a little bit, but it said your family were both educators too, because you're a professor. It's changed over the years a little bit, right? Like you're a professor in
Yeah,
education, and then you worked, or you still doing special education too?
I do.
Yeah.
Right. So I started off my career as a middle and high school special education teacher.
Okay.
And and then when our twins were 3 months old, I decided what a great time to start a doctoral program.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I mean, there are a lot of reasons why that happened. My husband was starting a postdoc at the University of Maryland, and it honestly was either put the kids in full-time daycare because I would be teaching. So they would have to go into daycare while he was working and I was teaching, or I go to grad school and I'm home with them during the day, and then he can be home with them in the evenings when I'm going to class. So it was a very purposeful choice about how we wanted our family structure to be and how we wanted to raise our kids. And it was tough. Like we were in Maryland, we didn't know anybody. It was just the two of us. We didn't have any help or support around, but we did it because we knew that's what we wanted for our kids. So finished my doctorate in 2003, and then got a job as a full-time professor in special ed in 2004. And so I've
Okay.
been in higher ed doing different things ever since 2004, including a couple of years working for the state of California in higher education, and then got back into the university setting here just in August.
That's awesome. How that had to be hard, right? Like the kids part, because I'm wrestling with that now. I have a 2-year-old and
Hmm.
one that just turned 5 months, and I run Team Hoot. I tried keep trying really hard to start this mental health one whole life organization
Hmm.
thing, while doing freelance videography. And Carrie's working full time at a jail, and well, together we kind of made this decision. Well, I'm home, so I'll spend time with the kids because that was a purposeful decision too.
Hmm.
But man, that is so hard. Like it had to be hard for you too, right? Like,
It was hard. It was very stressful. Like I said, we didn't have a support system. in
Yeah.
Maryland or in California. We moved out here when they were 3. And so we didn't know anybody here. My husband got a job at a university here, and so that's how we moved across the country.
Yeah.
I had just finished my coursework for my doctorate when we moved, and so I had to figure out how to do my doctoral study out here, knowing basically no one in the field of education, and found some great mentors along the way that helped me with that. But I think when you make decisions for what's best for your family, that there are definitely sacrifices that we made as parents, because our world was focused on what their needs were,
Yeah.
and so it didn't afford a lot of time to do other things that maybe young couples our age would have had time
Yeah.
to do. But for us at the time, it was what our kids needed. It was how we chose to raise them. And some people don't have the opportunity for those choices, right?
Right.
Like both people have to work full time. And so the kids have to go into daycare, and that's just the way it is. And I don't look down on anybody for
No.
that.
Yeah.
You have to make the best decisions for the situation you find yourself in. We were very fortunate to be able to make the choice where I could stay home with them during the day.
Yeah.
And then when I did have to go out into schools to work on the research project that was funding my graduate assistantship,
Yeah.
we had grad students who I could schedule. They would come and
Yeah.
babysit for us. So, it was a nice situation that way. But you have to make choices in life. We chose to have kids,
Yeah.
and we went through quite a bit. We had to go through IVF to have our kids. And so that process and the struggles
Yeah.
we had to have children, we just wanted to be able to provide the best we could for them. And that's how we made decisions about our lives and, daycare and all those kinds of things.
That sounds so special though. Like you guys got to do that.
Mhm.
Was was it hard staying present though with it sounds like you had so much going on, right? I did grad school and after my master's I was like I'm never coming back here. This is done.
Yeah.
Like I'm out of here forever. But and it was one of the most stressful periods of my life. And I couldn't imagine trying to do that while having kids. Was that hard for you too? Where like to me it's hard like I look at your brain and your awareness like a flashlight, right? I can shine on one thing at a time.
Hmm.
But when you have a lot of things going on, it always feels like you're kind of going back and forth. And if you don't have this awareness, it's hard to just keep it on one thing.
Yeah.
Was that going on for you too, or not? Or am I just
Sure. Yeah.
struggling
I think,
myself over here?
no, not at all. Like, when they were, um, very young, infants, when I started my doctoral program, it was very much about, okay, they're down for a nap.
Yeah.
So I've got an hour
Yeah.
to get some homework done. And so I'm going to do that. And then things like housework just waited till the weekend,
Mhm.
and you had to be okay with that. Like, we're just going to chuck the dishes in the dishwasher and
Yeah.
then run the vacuum and stuff on the weekend because there's simply no time for that during the week. And finding opportunities to be present with your kids whenever they make themselves available.
Yeah.
So, um, my husband would read to them every single night, and because I was at class, and so he would feed them dinner, play with them, and then read to them every night, get them ready for bed. And so you establish a routine. But like I said, you find opportunities to be present, and you just become great at multitasking and finding opportunities to get things done when it's nap time, or because we always put them down for a nap at the same time, whether they slept or not, because they were in the same room. They tended to just talk and play or whatever. That was totally fine, but they knew that was nap time, and then mom could go do some homework or whatever. So it's just about maximizing the time that you have available to get the things done that you need to get done.
Yeah, I can relate to so much of what you're saying. Like, especially when you're like, okay, nap time's the time to do this, and early on, it still gets frustrating. Sometimes you're like, okay, I have maybe an hour. And if
Hmm.
they sleep for 15 minutes or something, you're like, oh, I don't know where I'm going to find this time again to get this
Yeah.
in. Or do I just throw it away? And
Hmm.
that's what's hard with like what I'm doing with Team Hoot and things. Cause it's like, if I don't water this plant, it's going to die. That's what it always feels like. And I don't
Well, and
know.
you have to be, I think when you have young kids, you have to be flexible and work with those brief moments of time that you have available.
Yeah.
Because
And I'd rather water my kids than I would Team
Oh,
Hoot.
for
That's where
sure.
I always come back to. It's like
Hmm.
I would let Team Hoot die 1,000 times over before I try and do anything that would hurt my kids, right? So
Absolutely. And
yeah,
so it's a shift in terms of how do you do your adult stuff when
yeah,
you have kids stuff. And so you need to, figure out what your priorities are. And then, like I said, I became a pro at, okay, I've got 15 minutes. Okay, I'm taking stats right now. So I can get, maybe two or three of my stats problems done for my
yeah,
homework. And then, so it's just a matter of being able to shift gears really quickly when you have
yeah,
kids, because it's like, okay, 15 minutes, what can I do in 15? Oh, I can do a lot in 15 minutes, but you
yeah.
never really thought that way before you had kids. And
Right.
so it's just,
You become pretty efficient, right?
you get really efficient.
Yeah,
Yeah, super efficient. And you just realize something's just got to go. Like,
yeah,
I got dishes in my sink. So what?
yeah. We'll get
So
paper
what?
plates
We're
next
gonna
week.
have McDonald's tonight. That's totally fine. Like,
Yeah.
and just be comfortable with that.
Yeah, I've kind of done um, so Amelia's at the age last year where she wanted to go to work with dad, which is essentially I just go downstairs and pack some books or something,
Uh-huh.
right? And so she hugged every book before she put it in the bag and
Oh,
she was like working with me. So that
yeah,
was pretty cool.
absolutely.
Yeah, now she likes taking the stickers out and putting them in there. Hey, what wristband did they get? And you go show her and she goes up on the wall and takes one off. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
wonderful. That's
that's been a way
amazing.
to kind of micromanage that a little bit. I went off a little tangent with parenting on there, but so let's go back to the work stuff. So with the special education, like what made you want to work in special education in the first place?
Well, I originally wanted to be a meteorologist.
Oh, really?
That was like when I was growing up, I desperately wanted to be a meteorologist. Well, I grew up in Michigan and we had all kinds of weather.
Well, now you
Uh,
still are with pole vault, right? Every pole vaulter knows what way the wind's going and what's
yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, very aware of that, for sure. But I wasn't a real strong math student, and so but my whole family's educators, and I think I wanted to be a meteorologist because my whole family were teachers, and it's
yeah.
like and I started teaching very early. Like I was a counselor for a girls club at my church. So it was kind of like Christian Girl Scouts, the
Like
Calvinettes
like in
in
high school you were doing that or
yeah, in high school.
oh wow.
And I started teaching. I'm also a flute player. So I started giving flute lessons in high school. And so I was teaching, I just didn't, and I was good at it. And I just didn't really want to, be another teacher in the family because that's what everybody did kind of thing.
Yeah.
But got into college and started off as a flute performance major, actually. And but then it was those kinds of programs are very intense, especially for flute. There's so much competition, and I struggled a lot with anxiety, with performance anxiety, and music just wasn't fun anymore. I just wasn't really enjoying it. I didn't want to practice, and so switched to music minor, and then went into education, and was fully expecting to be the perfect kindergarten, first grade teacher. I had collected all kinds of children's books. I had this whole vision in my mind of, my reading corner with bean bags, the whole like
Yeah.
quintessential primary classroom. And then I had to do some field work for my program and ended up volunteering in a special education classroom and thought, okay, this is my jam. I'm really motivated. This is something I could be very passionate about. So ended up being a music, special ed, and elementary ed triple major.
Wow.
And had a really poor experience in student teaching and special ed, and so thought I wasn't going to go into that area. Did a long-term sub in kindergarten and was like, oh, I can't.
Yeah. Not
I
for
just
me.
can't. It almost did me in.
Yeah.
Um, and so the first job I found was teaching 7th through 12th special ed, self-contained classroom in the middle of rural Indiana. And absolutely loved it. Like it's totally my passion. Loved the high school drama, loved helping my students get ready for life after high school. Started a work-based community-based work program to get them some work experience out in the community, and just loved that whole thing. So that's kind of how I got into special ed.
That's so cool. I had a similar experience. It sounds like my field experience in my student teaching made me not want to be in teaching. It was like,
It's unfortunate. Yeah.
yeah, and then when I came back, I don't know if you had this experience or something similar, but it was almost like a rah-rah. We were in class, all these people went out. There's like 30 of us, and we all came back to the classroom and talked about the teacher and our experiences.
Hmm.
And like, does anybody who wants to be a teacher? And everyone's like, yeah. And they all raise their hand. And they're like, anyone do this and decide they didn't want to be a teacher? And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah. I was the only one with my hand up. I was like, ah,
Oh.
shit. And they asked me about it. And I just, I remember saying, I love the teaching part. I didn't like the politics I saw while I was there. And I didn't like, I saw teachers who were only teaching for 3 years just burnt out on it. And
Hmm.
I was like, this looks like something that could happen to me pretty quick here. And there's got to be a
It
way I
does
can keep
happen a lot.
yeah, there's got to be a way I can keep teaching and doing the part I like to enjoy without having to do there just seemed to be like 80% of the crap I didn't want to do and then like the
Yeah.
20% was like the fun stuff. And now I'm doing that with like Team Hoot and mental health
Yeah, for
and
sure.
blogs and all this other stuff. But
Educating in different ways.
yeah, and I think more people I just wish it felt okay that I didn't enjoy it. And in that classroom in that moment, I was just like, I need to
It's and
slither
I
out of
wish
here.
we talked about that more in education because like I said, my special ed student teaching experience was terrible and I swore I'd never teach special ed because of that. And I just kind of found I needed a job and
Yeah,
that was the job that was available. But and I talk about that a lot in my higher ed teacher ed courses. Like
good.
we can learn as much from teachers that we don't want to be like as we can from teachers we do want to be like.
Yeah,
So you can go and observe teaching and say, okay, this is not who I want to be as a teacher. And so I can do different things to make sure that I'm not that kind of teacher. And so I've tried to normalize that as much as possible because I don't like your experience, my experience, like I almost didn't go into education
yeah.
because of that. And and I would have missed out on a pretty good career. So I do try and normalize that in my courses as much as possible.
You sound like a really good teacher. Actually,
I
like
hope so.
someone I would have wanted to have. What kind of if you can talk about this, what kind of special needs did the people you were working with, what kind of or the students have that you were
Learning disabilities and developmental disabilities.
okay.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't think I've ever shared this publicly, but I was in special education when I was
Were
in
you?
high school, middle school, for a lot of the depression type stuff. They
Hmm.
kind of gave me a place to get away from the
Yeah.
class. Like there was a time in health where they started talking about depression, and she was teaching about depression and anxiety, and I just remember sitting there going, "This is not right. This is not my
Right.
experience." Um, and I asked to like be removed, like, hey, and they knew it, because all the
Hmm.
teachers kind of, I forgot what it's called, it's like a plan or something like that.
Hmm.
And so I got to go just to the other class. I'm like, I have real life experience with this. I don't need it. Or if I need a little break or some time or something like that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think of those. There's there's one in particular. Uh, one of my special education teachers who I actually reached out to her 2 years ago and I like thanked her for everything she did because
Oh,
she was one of the in a oh man, I don't want to just talk about myself here, but
no,
there
that's
was
okay.
when in middle school it was really rough. I don't know if you know a lot of my story, but I was in a mental health hospital in middle school. I was 13, seventh grade, and just really bad. Kind of came back to school, and then I was like half at this mental health hospital, like outpatient kind of place where they would
Hmm.
teach you all these skills, and you did some of your classwork there. But they almost approached it like your school classwork isn't as important as this other stuff, so let's focus on all this
Right.
other stuff. And then I came back to school, and at that time in middle school, the teachers, I had a lot of like I feel like I look at the world very differently. And at that time I was like questioning kind of dark things, not
Hmm.
not in a like a bad way. I've realized now it was more like, yeah, what does happen when you die? Like what
Hmm.
what like is religion important? Like why do we do that? Like is school
Hmm.
even important? Like if someone get
Existential. You were having some
yeah,
pretty deep thoughts back then. Yeah.
yeah, and even younger I had those and I still do, right? And
Hmm.
but if you brought those up to adults or teachers at the time, they kind of just pushed you away. And like,
Hmm.
why are we learning about Anne Frank? Like, I don't care about Anne. Like, what's it? And no one could
Yeah.
answer it. There was just like, you have to do this, And that made me kind of
Hmm.
reject that teacher immediately. But And I'm only telling you this to set this up, but this teacher would have the conversations with me, the special education teacher. She's like, "Yeah, I don't know why." And she would just sit in that space with me and kind
Mhm.
of look into the void that I was looking into, that I still look into, and I just kind of see
And
this void that
validate,
invalidate. Yeah.
validate the questions that you had and how you were feeling.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
it stuck with me 20 years later. Like that's how powerful that was. And I could be goofy and I could feel like my silliness coming back out where it was felt like it was kind of kept pushing down to the point one day she's like, I'm going to see you on TV someday. You're going to be like on Saturday Night Live or something. And then I kind of happened with YouTubes and vlogs and stuff like that.
Right.
But um, I just want to, feel like it's important to say this as I think some people look at me and I don't know how I'm viewed online because I can't view myself from someone else's perspective, but I think
Right.
they just see someone who has it kind of figured out in a way, and special education is different, and these are very bad kids or something like that. And I was like, I was in there and it was super helpful for me, and it kind of navigated my life in a better way, you
Well,
know?
I like to say that special education levels the playing field
Yeah,
for kids, right? It's there to provide the supports so that every child can have the same access to the curriculum, to activities, to mental health, to all those kinds of things. So it's not meant to give a leg up. It's not, you know, it really is meant to level the playing field. There's that picture of the kids standing at the fence,
yeah,
and equity is where they all the boxes are the same height, so everybody gets the same thing. But there's a child who's shorter, and so two of the kids can't see over the fence, but they all got the same thing, so they better be happy. Well, fairness is where everybody gets what they need,
yeah,
right? And so in order to see over the fence, one of the boxes is taller than the other, and the other one's middle height. And I watched this video by Dr. Lavoie, who's a famous person in the field of special education. And that was the first time I had heard that fairness is everyone gets what they need.
yeah,
And that has stuck with me. And that's the foundation I work from in special education, that every child who is in special education, who qualifies for special education services, is getting what they need to be successful, not to, you know, blow everybody away and, run past everybody or whatever. It's what they actually need on a daily basis to be successful.
yeah. Is that frustrating for you? Like teaching and training people to go into that space? And what kind of things do you think about when you while you're doing that?
So I think one of the things that I've been able to do is I've been involved with the Odyssey of the Mind organization for over 20 years, and that's a creativity competition for kids. And I've developed a program within that called Odyssey Inclusive, which is specifically for kids with more significant disabilities. And that's all about creative thinking, divergent thinking. Our kids, my husband and I were our kids' coaches for 10 years in the program, and then I was the state director for a while. So I think providing those kinds of opportunities is important. Our kids also did things like History Day and Science Fair. And so we really tried to, and Hannah did robotics, Beck's robotics for a couple years as well. So we always tried to like supplement the school experience with some of the more creative researching, experiences. And I think that's served both of them really well throughout their academic careers and now in the careers that they've chosen as well, because they are creative thinkers, they are problem
Yeah.
solvers, and they gained that through things like Odyssey of the Mind and History Day and Science Fair, because those types of programs force them to, okay, here's a problem, you need to solve this creatively. No one's going to give you the answer. You have to discover that answer for yourself. And my husband's a scientist, I'm an educator, and so we value that type of thinking and definitely wanted our kids to develop that as well. So we were, fortunate to be able to provide those opportunities for them, because um, and those are always seen as the nerdy kinds of things and,
Yeah.
and things like that. But they also gain some really important life skills through doing those kinds of
Yeah.
things.
It feels like that's changing. Just from my perspective, it feels like it's not seen as like nerdy anymore. It's just another thing.
Right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just it's just something else you can do now. Yeah.
That's a really interesting way of looking. I haven't really thought of it like that, where you still have the school part, but it's like sports, right? You
Mhm.
you you have sports, but hey, here's all these other things you can try and do too if you
You
want.
develop the whole child,
Yeah, the whole
like you said,
child.
academics is one part, and then you need to see what other opportunities you can provide through sports or academics or what have you, um, that can grow the whole child.
Yeah. So I'm kind of hearing like a lot of people just throw their kids into school and that's their education. But you have to, as a parent, you really have to, here's part of it. This
Right.
is just part of it. And
Yeah.
you might be in a system or a company that you follow these rules just like school does. But here's where you can be an entrepreneur, here's where you can
Hmm.
work with be an artist, or here's where you can do all these other types of things because
Yeah.
that's the whole when we think about it.
Yeah, there's debate, there's mock trial, there's all different types of, Future Farmers of America. There's like a lot of different ways, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, all kinds of things where you can um, really tap into different things, and it's important to provide a lot of different experiences so they can find things that they're passionate about.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about Odyssey of the Mind? Like when I was looking, I looked at the website before we started talking. I was like, this looks amazing, actually. And you've been a part of it for a long time, it sounds like.
Long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
The program's been around since the 70s. It was founded by Dr. Sam Nicholas. He was a professor at Rowan University, and he gave his engineering students a task. It wasn't the cardboard canoe kind of standard thing, but he said, you need to get a device across this pond without any obvious propulsion attached to it. And so that got some attention every year, and then parents are like, hey, we'd love to see our kids do something like this. So eventually over time, Odyssey of the Mind was came to be. And so every year the organization puts out problems related to vehicle and a technical problem, a balsa wood structure, a classical history, performance, and then one for primary kids in kindergarten through second grade. And teams of kids look at the general problem that's been put before them, and they try and solve that as creatively as possible. And the end result is an 8-minute theatrical performance where the kids have done everything. They've written the script, made all the prop scenery and costumes, created any technical elements, and they perform that in front of trained judges. And the goal is for the judges to look at that performance and say, how did they come up with that? Like they had these general directions, and how did this performance come to be? Um, so they perform at regional tournaments, and then the team is also asked to solve a problem on the spot. And so they do
Oh,
their
wow.
performance, they get feedback, and then they're brought into another room and they have no idea what the problem's supposed to be. And they're presented it and they're given 10 minutes to solve it right there. And
Oh,
so it's an amazing way for kids to figure out how to work together, how to solve problems on the spot. They have to talk through their thinking with the officials that are there. So it really helps with processing and talking to adults and sharing how they think and so on. So it was an amazing opportunity. It draws a lot of neurodivergent kids because it's all about different
yeah.
thinking, creative thinking. So we see a lot of neurodivergent kids in the program. And yeah, it was an amazing opportunity for our kids. They really learned a lot. And our daughter in particular was very shy. And so it was a wonderful way for her over time to develop comfort being in front of people, talking to adults. Um, so yeah, I was Paul and I were our kids' coaches for 10 years. And then they asked me to step in as the volunteer state director for California, which I did for 10 years. And then, like I said, I really felt like there was an opportunity for kids with more significant disabilities to participate. And so we're in our third season now. But I take one of the Odyssey of the Mind problems and I write the script for the teams. And it incorporates different special ed focus areas like self-advocacy, healthy eating, friendships, those kinds of things. So I incorporate those ideas into the script, and there's singing and dancing, which is always a big hit. And then I've written accommodated problems that they have to solve on the spot as well, so they get the full experience. But it's been great. There's very few visual and performing arts programs for kids with disabilities that are appropriately accommodated.
Yeah.
Um, so there's been quite a bit of interest, and it's just been amazing to see the kids do their performances.
I couldn't even imagine like having a kid who isn't like bound. I bet you guys get surprised every year like how like the creativity that they come up with where
Absolutely.
because I feel like as I get older, it's harder to stay in that like childlike play state,
Hmm.
right? And when I
Creative
now that
thinking, yeah.
yeah, now that I have kids, and I'm like, well, how are you tying these two dots together?
Yeah,
But I
exactly.
th- and I look at my 2-year-old, and I'm constantly saying this. I said to my wife today at least 3 times, like I think she's smarter than me. She's this creative
In a
kid right
lot of
here.
ways they are because
Yeah,
they don't have those adult filters,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
They're just able to think and say whatever they want
It's
and think,
free.
make
Yeah,
connections, and they're not hindered by, well, that really doesn't normally go together. Well, they don't have to worry about that because they haven't had the experience of saying no, those things don't go together.
yeah.
Um, so so yeah, it's an amazing program. I'm honored to have been a part of it, and I'm excited that the folks at the national office have been so supportive of Odyssey Inclusive and the opportunities that it provides for kids with disabilities.
So how different are the Odyssey inclusive kids than the I don't want to normal's the wrong word, but the
Yeah, the
regular
kids who
kids?
participate in Odyssey of the
Yeah.
Mind, they're kids who have more significant disabilities. So, more significant autism or Down
Okay.
syndrome, more developmental, more significant developmental disabilities. And so we accommodate however it needs to be accommodated. We had a team in Connecticut who didn't feel comfortable memorizing their lines. And so the teacher read the script and they acted out the whole play, and it was incredible. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. And the kids ended up learning their lines. Like you could see them mouthing the words through the whole
Yeah.
performance. But for them, it was more comfortable
Yeah.
to have the teacher read the script and they acted out and did their singing and dancing. So yeah, whoever's on the team, we're going to accommodate for whatever their needs are.
That's incredible. It sounds like what you were talking about with pole vault, right? You just created a tribe
Mhm.
for these kids or a place
Right.
where they could feel like they could be themselves too, which
Exactly. And we're seeing some pretty cool positive behavioral outcomes, like
yeah.
pre-participation, post-participation. I'm actually giving a presentation about that at a national conference in November. And
Okay.
we have some initial data from some of our participants in New York, and we're seeing some pretty decent improvements in behavioral outcomes, which is exciting.
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool. Lynn, you're
Yeah.
a special person. It's pretty
Oh,
cool you're
thank
doing
you.
this
So
type of
are
stuff.
you.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Um, with this program, where's it going next? Or is it in every state? Can anybody access this? Or
So
is it
any state that has Odyssey of the Mind, which is most of the states,
okay?
we can get an Odyssey inclusive program started. And even if there isn't an Odyssey of the Mind program, I've developed all the coach training materials and everything. Like I can work with local folks to get the program going. So it can go pretty much anywhere.
Okay. It sounds really cool. I'm gonna have to look into this too. This is pretty neat. Um, yeah, this special education stuff's it. I'm just happy you're in it and we were able to talk about it. I didn't plan on talking about it at all, but yeah,
Yeah,
it almost feels like a big part of my history that
right.
was helpful that I feel almost shamed to talk about because as a kid you're not supposed to be in that class, you're a
Yeah,
different
it
type of
it, it
kid.
definitely has a negative connotation to it, and I think like we talked about earlier, it's just all about recognizing that some kids need things to level the playing field. That's all that
Yeah,
it's about, is just providing equity and access.
that I wish someone said that to me when I was a kid. We're just leveling the playing field, like
Yeah,
yeah, and
need
that
this
would have helped a lot.
accommodation because like our son has severe dysgraphia, which is a handwriting issue. His handwriting looks like hieroglyphics. And so he needed accommodations, and he needed to be able to type out all of his work. And so he's also highly gifted and verbally gifted off the charts. But he needed something to help him with handwriting. And
Yeah,
so it leveled the playing field for him. You ask him to write a paragraph, like when he was in elementary school, you get maybe 2 or 3 sentences, extremely basic vocabulary, like, nowhere near what he was capable of. If he scribed a paragraph to me or typed it, it was like a novella. It
yeah,
was just the vocabulary was just like, where did this come from? Like paragraphs and paragraphs of text. I remember the first time I scribed an assessment for him, we sat there for like 45 minutes and he was just like, and then blah, 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 and I could barely keep up.
Yeah.
So that's leveling the playing field for him. It's nothing to be ashamed of or anything. It's just what he needed to be successful.
Yeah. Have you ever, it reminds you that, have you ever seen that TED Talk? I think it was Sir, I can't think of his last name, but he was talking about a kid who was told they were um, uh, disabled. This was a long time ago, so they're using the R word. I'm not going to say it on here, but
Yeah, yeah.
um, not good. Shouldn't even be in school.
Hmm.
Just a bad kid. And then they found out she was musically gifted, so she ended up just off the chart. Long story short, she was the creator of Juilliard, and she created Juilliard.
Oh,
And um,
hmm.
I think about that type of stuff all the time, where we have these kids or people who are just pushed down a certain way. And it's like that Einstein quote, like "Never judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree," kind of a thing.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I feel like that
Exactly.
happens a lot. And if we can
Hmm.
just point them to where their gifts are, their passions, or the things that make them feel alive, or get them into that tribe where they can do that, that's
Hmm.
where the magic seems to happen. And it's crazy because it keeps feeling like that's what you've been doing this whole time in your life. Like you trying to do that with, or not trying, you found it with pole vaulting, you found it with the special needs, special education part where you're not just
Hmm.
doing it for yourself maybe, but it sounds like you're doing it for
No,
so many
I'm
other kids
doing it
too.
for the kids.
Yeah.
It's all about providing access
Yeah.
for the kids so that they can live their best lives,
Well, you're
to
doing
the
it.
best of their ability.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you're doing it for your kids too, right? It sounds
Hmm.
like that's what you're always doing for them. Can you, do you have time for just a couple more questions and I'll let you get
Yeah,
out of here? Okay. Stop you from your housework like
my
we were talking
housework.
about. Yeah. Um, so you have two kids?
Yeah, we have twins, Hannah and Casey, and they are 28.
Can you just like, can you just tell me about them a little bit? I'm just kind of curious
Yeah,
about it.
yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
They're very different, even though they're in the womb at the same time. You'd never know they were twins. Casey is 6'1", Hannah's 5'1", and they're both, blonde hair, blue eyed, but just very different personalities as well. Just Hannah's very well, she started as an engineering major and is now in geoinformational systems. So she does digital mapping and analysis and things like that. And she's very analytical. When she was 18 months, we took her trick-or-treating for the first time and we came home and without any prompting from us, she sorted all of her Halloween candy. So there were the chocolates, there's the suckers, there's the bubble gums, like it was like perfect.
Yeah.
So that's her brain, very much an analytical, organizing brain, and she's in the perfect field for that. It really has suited her well, and she's doing very well. Um, Casey is very much more of a thinker, analytical, philosophical, deep thinker. And so he ended up getting his undergrad and master's in political science. And then wasn't really sure what he wanted to do with that. And so moved up to Seattle where he had some friends and ended up getting a job. He applied for just tons of jobs because he needed a job, right?
Yeah.
And he ended up in the job coaching space. So he's job coaching for adults with disabilities.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's his niche for sure. I thank God every day that that's the job that worked out. He was actually a peer mentor for students with disabilities where he got his undergrad and master's degree. And he started an honors program for the students with disabilities there. So they get an
Huh.
honor cord when they graduate. There were meetings and support groups and things like that. So it's not too surprising that he's ended up in the job coaching space. Eventually, he may go to law school to be a disability advocate lawyer or just go into the advocacy space. Or he's been talking recently about maybe going into the university support services space for students with disabilities. So this is really his niche, and he's very good at mentoring, looking at a situation, seeing what supports are needed, and putting those into place. So it's cool to see them find their place.
Yeah. What does it feel like to, it sounds like it sounds like he's following almost your path in a way. Not your exact path, but with the special needs type of things. Like there's seems to be
I think,
similarities that you both are looking at big picture. How do I help these people in this situations?
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think for him, for him, it's about, okay, I had this experience
Mhm.
as a student with disabilities, and we really struggled with his school district to get his accommodations in place because they saw this highly gifted verbal kid and they're like, he doesn't, what do you mean?
Yeah.
He doesn't need anything. Where he did. So it was actually very difficult. It was a very difficult time in middle school and high school. We ended up actually moving him and Hannah to a private school for their senior year because things got so difficult at the public school for him. It just was not a healthy mental health environment for him to
Yeah.
constantly be battling with his teachers about implementing these very basic accommodations where he just needed to be able to use a laptop in class. Um, so I think that, and then just seeing how supportive disability services was for him in college and his master's degree and how important that was to his success. He wants to ensure that those kinds of things are in place, and having walked that walk, he has a lot of cachet with the people he mentors and so on because he's been through that himself. So he feels
Yeah.
like he can really give back to that community.
Yeah. It sounds like, I mean, that's a lot of purpose, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, if, yeah, he's fighting that battle that he experienced.
Hmm.
I'm happy he's in that space. That's the
I
type of
am
person
too.
you want in there for sure.
Hmm.
Um,
And he really enjoys it. He gets a lot of, pleasure out of helping folks. So he's in working environments and helping adults with disabilities really figure out how to navigate that space, but
yeah.
also helping the people who work with that individual
Okay.
navigate that experience. So managers and staff and things like that, like it's not okay to talk to them that way. It's, these are the things they can do. Let's not focus on the things they can't do, those kinds of things. So and that, I think that aspect of it has, um, been an eye opener,
Yeah,
but he's navigated it really well.
that's pretty cool.
Mhm.
It's fun seeing you light up talking about your kids. It's
Yeah,
kind of fun.
they're pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
proud of them. We're very proud of both of them. Because both of them were diagnosed with sensory integration dysfunction as toddlers, and so they over processed some senses and under processed others, and so and we knew very little about that at the time. This is back in the late 90s, and we know a lot more about those kinds of issues now than we did back then. And there just weren't a lot of supports in place. Like now you can even go to sensory friendly movie screenings where they actually turn the music down. There's,
oh,
the normalization of wearing headphones in public. And those kinds of things would have been super helpful when they were toddlers and really struggling with processing all those kinds of things. So we're both very proud of them for navigating all of that and being proactive about, okay, these are the sensory situations that I struggle with. Here's the strategies I'm going to put in place. I'm not just going to be reactive or unhappy or whatever. I'm going to actively work at what works for me and then be able to communicate that to the people around me so that they understand, that. And I've come to realize too, like my social battery wears out
yeah,
after
yeah,
a period of time because I have a little bit of social anxiety myself. And so it's been wonderful for me over the course of my life to see mental health and strategies that people put into place and awareness become more normalized. And it's
yeah,
okay to say to somebody, my social battery's low. I need to go, have some downtime or whatever. And people understand that and it's okay. That wouldn't have been the case when I was their age.
yeah,
It was always frowned upon and, oh, you're crazy.
yeah.
It was either you're
Cra-
normal or you're crazy. There was no in between. And so I'm very encouraged that there's so many more conversations about mental health and the things that people struggle with and how we can be a community.
yeah, there's a lot more curiosity now. Like, tell me more about what you're going through instead of like just immediately push them off. Like, yeah,
Right.
we're outcast 'em. And I keep coming back to this, but then like if you don't have that tribe or that community, or you feel so secluded, and then that's where
Yeah,
it just gets
isolated,
worse.
and
And
you feel odd and like, what's wrong with me and things like that. But if you
yeah,
have an understanding that, there are other people who are experiencing life the way that you do, and there are a lot of different strategies. Because again, it's just like cues for pole vault. There's
yeah,
not everything works for everybody in their mental health journey. So it's nice to have a lot of different
yeah.
opportunities. And I don't know how many people I've told about your box breathing and the wristbands, and
I
like your
appreciate
box
that.
breathing has helped a lot of people that I'm familiar with anxiety, just to have something physical that you can do when you're starting to feel that panic attack coming on, I think is just so important. So having that kind of information out there and strategies, I think is really important.
Yeah, that's what's hard. That's been kind of my difficulty. What you just said, though, is there's so many. It's like what ones are the biggest impact that you can give, and it always
Hmm.
seems to come back to the grounding, like getting into
Hmm.
your body, and the breathing does that almost every time. But yeah, feeling sensations or focusing on a sensation will just it helps. Kind of what you were talking about with pole vault earlier. It helps you just shine that flashlight or stay focused, because if you're anywhere else, like it just doesn't
Yeah,
work. It just doesn't
exactly.
work. Yeah.
Well, like I always like since I was a little girl, I struggled with falling asleep at night because I would just go to those anxious places and start worrying and whatever. And then you have kids, and then like all the worries are just a bit bigger.
Yeah.
And the world seems a bit scarier at times. And so I just heard the strategy. Um, it was on a TikTok or something. I don't remember, but the psychologist was like, well, you need to short circuit your brain because it's just going into this cycle of unhealthy, and you're just going to sit there worrying, and it's going to move from one thing to the next. So start just picturing random things in your head. And he recommended like furniture in your house. So I start with, and I have to do this almost every night. But I start with the kitchen table, and then the chair, and then the fridge, and sometimes that doesn't work. So then I move to the grocery store. Then I go through all the fruits and vegetables in the produce aisle. Sometimes that doesn't even work. And then I start working my way through the instruments in the orchestra. So I start with the first violins, the second violins, and normally by the time I get back to the brass section, I've fallen asleep.
I
But
haven't
it's,
heard that one. That's
things
cool.
like that. Like if I had had that when I was a kid, I would have been a lot less anxious as a child because I wouldn't have worried every night about going to sleep. I would have slept a lot better, so it's just awareness, and not everything works for everybody. You have to
Yeah.
find the things that work for you.
Yeah, and it's hard to get people to try them sometimes. I've found
Hmm.
that too. Like
Well,
I
that sounds stupid, right? Like I'm just going to think about furniture.
it
Like,
sounds
are you
stupid.
kidding me?
Yeah.
But it
It
really, for me, it works really well.
yeah, the box breathing thing too. Like
Hmm.
yeah, I used to try and force people through doors, right? I'm like, I know this works. Go through this door, and I've come to just learn I'm a door opener. Like I'll keep opening as many doors as I can, but it's up to you to decide to go through them. And what's unfortunate is most people decide to walk through them when things are really bad, and so you see
They
people
wait too long.
they wait too long, or they're hurt, or they're struggling, and it's hard for me to see people struggle. But
Hmm.
and then sometimes I get excited about it though, because I'm like, oh, this is where they'll finally walk through the door, and then this is where things will start getting better, and that's hard. They talk, I mean, it's the same when people talk about hitting rock bottom. Like sometimes you just have to get to a place that's more uncomfortable than the change is going to be uncomfortable, right? And so then they
Well, and
decide
they
to
have to want
try,
the help,
want it.
and to
Yeah.
want to put the effort in. You can go to therapy, but if you're not being genuine with the therapist or taking the suggestions that they have and putting them into practice, then it's just talking at somebody. It's not really going to help you.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Can I just do two more questions, and I promise
Yeah.
I'll get you out of here?
No, no worries. This is
All right.
fun.
I'll pick two more of them. So,
If you got more, that's fine. Like
are you
honestly.
sure? Okay.
Yeah.
I won't keep you past three our time or whatever, but
Okay.
so I have this. I wrote it down like this. But life kind of kicks you in the dick sometimes, like it's just like it's hard, right?
Hmm.
And the hardest part I feel like is that you get this wisdom through living it, but you can't use the wisdom until you've been through it. So
Yeah.
what,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a strange paradox in ways. But like what wisdom do you feel like you have now? I'm gonna just lump it into like as a parent. Do you wish you could bring back and give it to your younger parent self? Do you have any of those?
Yeah, I think give yourself some grace, you know, because you're going to make mistakes with your kids. Like there's just, you know, you're going to say something you should have said, you missed an opportunity, whatever. Like you're just going to make mistakes as a parent. And so you just have to be accepting of that. And like I said, give yourself some grace. Accept help when it's offered because not everybody has help available. And so if you do, you know, if you have an opportunity, if someone's like, hey, you know, we'll come in and babysit for you for a couple hours so that you and your wife can go out to dinner. Take it, you know,
Yeah.
like because focusing on your relationship with your partner, your parent, your co-parenting, whatever, is just as important as being there for your kids. Because if you
Yeah.
don't have a good, happy relationship with your partner, then that's going to translate into, you know, how you interact with your kids. So take those opportunities to, you know, do self-care and relationship care as well. And I think just utilizing resources that are available and seeking out. And if something doesn't feel right, trust your gut. Like we knew our kids were struggling when they were little. You know, we could tell they were uncomfortable. We didn't know how they were uncomfortable, but they were uncomfortable. And so we happened to find a pediatrician who was on the forefront of things, who understood sensory integration issues. And so we got some information. There wasn't a lot to work with back then, but we at least had a little bit of understanding about how our kids were experiencing their world, which is different than a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if something doesn't feel right, advocate for what your kids need. I think that's the biggest thing. And just you have them for such a short period of time, you know,
Yeah.
it's no lie, it's cliche, but you know, you blink and all of a sudden they're graduating high school. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
And so just to make the most of every opportunity to go for a walk in the park, go to the playground, you know, do family vacations, just spend as much quality time, you know, read to them every night. Like those are cherished times that my kids had with my husband is reading together every night.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's just you again, you have such a short span of time to give them everything you've got.
Yeah. It's interesting. It is cliche, you know, like it goes so fast, right?
Mhm.
And I have this I actually talked to Carrie about this, my wife. I think it was yesterday or the day before, but it's like if you look back and I don't know how to say this. It feels like there's always this conflict. I don't know if you've experienced that too, where you're like, if I go out and spend time with my wife, it's taking time away from my kids. Or if I do this thing to fill my bucket, it's taking away, you know, a moment to read maybe a book with them. And I guess I wrestle with that all the time. And when I've kind of noticed when people look back and if they do regret something, they forget that maybe they were filling their bucket in that moment and that's what was needed. And
Right.
it's like you forget to look at the whole picture. Like, okay,
Mhm.
at that, and so I guess we're trying
You
really
can't lose
hard.
yourself to be a parent.
No,
You know,
it kind of goes
you
back to
have
you have to
to
fill your own bucket to fill somebody else's, right?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know. I just,
It's a
it,
balancing act. It's tough
yeah.
in the moment to make those calls, make those decisions, but you do have to practice self-care.
Yeah, I think I'm just trying to say like if there's anybody listening, I'm a young parent, like I don't have all the answers, so I'm t asking you all these tough questions, but it seems like it's okay to be uncomfortable with those and like
Mhm.
any growth is going to be uncomfortable and you're growing not only as a person but as a parent and you're helping these kids grow. But um
Yep.
if you just spent time with your kids in that moment and you weren't filling your bucket, that would be uncomfortable too. So it's almost like you have to
Mhm.
choose what road of
It's a balance.
uncomfortability. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's a
definitely
balance.
a
Let's
balance.
go back to that every
Mhm.
time. Um, okay, can we just do three fun ones?
Yep.
Or, okay. Do you have any movies you keep going back to all the time? Like what's your favorite movies?
Princess Bride.
Princess Bride? Is it really?
Yeah, I love that movie.
Did you-
Absolutely love it. There's just so many catchy lines in it, and it's so creative. Like it's so different than anything else. And so I love the actors who are in that movie. Like they're all still friends, the ones that are still living, and
Yeah.
any interviews you see, they just cherish that experience, I guess. And so you can see the joy in the production. Like it's not faked. I saw an interview with Mandy Patinkin and he's like, that's the best I've ever done. And it's the
Yeah.
best I'll ever do, you know? And so, and it just always brings a smile to my face. So yeah, that's my all-time favorite.
Yeah. Like, how do you watch it every year or more than
Just
that, do you
about
think?
every year. Yeah, I watch
Yeah.
White Christmas about once a year. You know, there's a couple go-tos that I'll watch every year.
Do you have a movie that's like one to, if you ever feel like you want to cry or something, like this is the one I have to
I
watch?
don't watch movies to cry.
No?
You know,
No.
life is too dramatic. And so if I watch movies, they're fun movies. They're like action movies like Star Wars and things like that,
Yeah.
or they're happy movies. I do not watch drama. Yeah, I can't do it.
I was just curious. Yeah, I'm comedy's my go-to for sure all the time too.
Hmm.
But every year I got to watch It's a Wonderful Life. That one always I just
Yeah, I've
and
seen
I
that
I
on your socials.
I
Yeah.
cry every time. It's terrible. Okay, last question here. Why? And I feel weird asking this, but why have you been so nice to me over the years? Is that a weird question? Like you
No,
just
it's like I guess not. I mean, I think
because we haven't even met, right? And
no,
you've
we
been so
haven't met.
nice. You've made blankets for my kids, when they were born,
No.
and you're just
Um,
so nice.
you're a real person in every sense of the word. Like you're genuine, you're real, you care about people, you're out there. The work that you do is to improve mental health, which I think is so important, and to bring awareness to that. And, you know, I was so bummed that I missed your talk at Reno because I was really looking forward to that. So I hope you have an opportunity to do that again in the future because I think it's so important. So I just see you as a genuine, loving, caring human being who's truly doing stuff out there to make the world a better place. And when I find people like that, I want to stay connected and I want to support them and benefit from
Yeah.
the positivity and the work that you're doing and so on. So that's why.
I would I wanted you to know I wasn't fishing for compliments
No, I know.
and compliments make me feel uncomfortable. I just want you to know that too. So
They make
I'm
me feel
sitting here.
uncomfortable as
Okay.
well. So I'm right there
Okay.
with you.
I'm like and I'm still trying to wrestle where that comes from, but I know that's somewhere in my past. But um I get do you do that for a lot of people? I love the fact that you essentially what you're saying is you just threw gas on somebody's fire that you like, right? Someone that you see is just helping the world. Like I
It's
would
not a lot of people that I've found that connection with, to be honest with you.
really.
So you're in a pretty rarefied air.
No, I feel the same about you. That's why I wanted to do a podcast with you. I was like, I don't know what I can do, but if I can shine a little bit more light on everything that you're doing, hopefully it helps people grow that way too.
I
But
appreciate that.
yeah,
It's been a great conversation.
yeah, I want to thank you so much. I know we talked about everything from pole vault to to parenting to special ed and
No, it's
everything in
great.
between, but that's I don't know. I just wanted to get to know you more because we've had little bits on social media, and I mean we've
Hmm.
had long paragraph conversations too. But
Yeah. No,
I
this has
don't.
been fantastic. It's been a lot of fun. And
Yeah,
it's been,
is it
I
is
was honored that you asked.
yeah is there any last thing maybe you just want to either say to people looking into pole vault, or is there anything else you feel you'd like to promote, or kind of like a last thing you'd like to say?
I think it's just important to find things that you're passionate about and pursue them, even if people don't believe in you or dissuade you or try and get in your way. Everything I've done in my life, you know, when I was born, because of a health condition my mom had, the doctor told them that I'd be developmentally disabled and would, you know, not accomplish much in life. They were told that the day I was born, you know, and
Jeez.
my parents never held me back. They're just like, you want to do this? Sure. You know, we're going to support you in every way that we can. And there have been, you know, as you can tell, a lot of different things that I've pursued in my life. And I've had the right support systems in place. I married a fabulous guy. You know, we've been married 35 years and, it's an amazing partnership and supportive, and we've been through a lot. So if you're passionate about something, find a way to pursue it. Find the people who will support you in the kinds of things that you want to do, and who will be your champion. You really need to find people who will be your champion.
That's beautifully said. I love that. That's the best way to end this. But I, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
I,
you so much. I
yeah.
really enjoyed it, and we'll have to chat again soon.